The Supreme Court just a few hours ago rejected Donald Trump's emergency request to get involved in the legal fight over the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago. The Trump team asked the High Court to allow a special master to review the documents marked classified that were taken in the August 8th search of Trump's property. Ken Delanian covers the Justice Department. He joins me now. Ken, this decision by the Supreme Court comes after the Department of Justice weighed in on Tuesday. Bring us up to speed on that.
That's right. This was a resounding defeat, Tom, for Donald Trump and his lawyers. Not unexpected, something many legal experts predicted, but nonetheless, not a single Supreme Court justice found any reason to dissent from this decision that the Supreme Court was denying Donald Trump's appeal here. And so they're letting stand a decision by the 11th Circuit, the appeals court, including by two Trump-appointed judges on that court, that the classified documents seized at Mar-a-Lago have no business being reviewed by a special master, and that the FBI should be able to use those documents in their investigation.
So let me get this straight. President Trump wins the election. He takes office. He starts doing exactly what he promised he would do. And then a single federal judge in Washington, D.C. says, nope, not today. We are going to freeze everything you are trying to do. Can you believe this? This is the story that everyone is talking about right now. And honestly, it is one of the most important stories of Trump's entire second term so far. Because what is happening here is not just about money. It is not just about grants. It is not just about some boring budget stuff that makes your eyes glaze over. No, no, no. This is about something much bigger. This is about who actually runs this country. Is it the president that you elected, or is it unelected judges and bureaucrats who think they know better than the American people? And look, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, okay, another court case, another legal battle. We have seen this a million times before. Trump gets blocked by some judge. It goes to appeals, blah, blah, blah. But this one is different. And I am going to tell you exactly why. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Separately, the Justice Department is appealing the entire special master process to the 11th Circuit, and they've asked for emergency consideration, so that's going down the track. If the appeals court rules in their favor, the special master will go away. But again, all this is a little bit of a sideshow to the real meat of the investigation, which is the FBI interviewing witnesses, trying to find out what happened to those highly sensitive documents at Mar-a-Lago, and even more importantly, whether Donald Trump or anyone around him obstructed justice. Once they had a grand jury subpoena asking for classified documents, did they try to hide any of those?
Because what Trump is trying to do here is something that cuts to the very heart of how Washington works. He is trying to take control of federal spending. He is trying to stop the government from wasting your money on programs that do not work. Programs that push agendas you did not vote for. Programs that are basically, and I am just going to say it, slush funds for the swamp. We are talking about hundreds of billions of dollars here. Hundreds of billions. That is not a typo. That is not an exaggeration. That is the actual number. And when Trump tried to pause this spending, just pause it, to review where all this money is going, a federal judge stepped in within hours and said you cannot do that. Hours. Think about that for a second. The President of the United States, the guy who was elected by the American people to run the executive branch, tries to review how federal money is being spent. And before he can even get started, a judge freezes the whole thing. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. And the American people deserve to know what is really going on here. And the media? Oh, the media is having a field day with this. They are acting like Trump just tried to burn down an orphanage or something. The headlines are insane. Trump freezes all federal aid. Chaos erupts as grants are halted. Nonprofits panic over funding cuts. But here's what they are not telling you. They are not telling you that this is exactly what Trump said he would do when he was running for president. He literally said, and I am quoting him here, "I will utilize the president's long-established impoundment authority to extract substantial savings from the bloated federal bureaucracy." That is not some secret plan. That is not some surprise attack. He told everyone exactly what he was going to do. The American people heard him. They voted for him anyway, and now he is doing it. And suddenly, it is a constitutional crisis. Come on. This is the game they always play. Trump does something. The left freaks out. Some judge in a blue city issues an injunction, and then everyone acts like democracy is dying. But here's what is really dying. What is really dying is accountability. What is really dying is the idea that elections have consequences. What is really dying is the basic principle that when you vote for someone, they should actually be able to do the job you elected them to do. So today, we are going to break all of this down. We are going to look at what Trump is actually trying to do. We are going to look at why this judge blocked him. We are going to look at what happens next. And most importantly, we are going to look at what this means for you. Because this is not just some political fight in Washington. This affects real money, your money, and it affects real programs that might actually matter to your community. So stick with me here. This is going to be a wild ride. And trust me, by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what is going on. And you are going to see why this fight is so important for the future of this country. All right, so let us get into what is actually happening here. Because there is a lot of confusion out there, a lot of misinformation, and honestly, a lot of people who do not even understand what Trump was trying to do in the first place. So let me explain it in simple terms. The federal government spends a lot of money, like a ridiculous amount of money. We are talking trillions of dollars every year, and a huge chunk of that money goes out in the form of grants, loans, financial assistance, all kinds of stuff. Some of that money goes to states, some goes to cities, some goes to nonprofits, some goes to foreign countries. It is everywhere. And here is the problem. Nobody really knows where all of it goes. I am serious. The federal government is so big, so bloated, so complicated that even the people who work there do not have a complete picture of where the money ends up. There are programs that were created decades ago that are still getting funded even though nobody can explain what they actually do anymore. It is insane. It is like a house where nobody has cleaned out the closets in 50 years. Just stuff piled on top of stuff. And nobody knows what is in there anymore. So Trump, when he took office, he signed an executive order. And this order basically said, hey, we are going to pause federal grants and financial assistance. We are going to review everything. We are going to make sure the money is being spent in ways that align with my administration's priorities. And what are those priorities? Well, he specifically mentioned a few things. First, he wants to cut funding for DEI programs. That is diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. A lot of federal money has been flowing to programs that push this ideology. And Trump thinks that is a waste. He thinks the government should not be in the business of promoting these ideas with taxpayer dollars. Second, he wants to boost fossil fuels. The previous administration was all about green energy, wind, solar, electric cars, all that stuff. Trump wants to flip that around. He wants to support oil and gas, and he does not want federal money going to programs that are working against that. Third, and this is the big one, he wants to stop funding things that he considers wasteful or harmful. That is pretty broad, but it includes things like foreign aid, except for Israel and Egypt, which are strategic allies that we have long-standing commitments to. So that is what the executive order was about. It was a pause, a review, a chance to look at everything and decide what should keep getting funded and what should not. Now, is that controversial? Yeah, of course it is. There are a lot of people who depend on federal grants, nonprofits, researchers, community organizations, universities, all kinds of groups. And when they heard that funding might be paused, they freaked out, which I get it. If your organization depends on a federal grant to operate and suddenly someone says that grant might be under review, you are going to be nervous. That is totally understandable. But here's where things get interesting. And this is where you really need to pay attention. A bunch of nonprofits and some other groups, they filed a lawsuit. They went to court and said, hey, Trump cannot do this. This is unconstitutional. You have to stop him. And Judge Lauren Ali Khan, a federal judge in Washington, D.C., she agreed. Well, sort of. She issued what is called a temporary restraining order, a TRO, and this basically froze everything. It stopped the executive order from taking effect, at least for a few days, while the court figures out what is going on. The order was set to take effect at 5 p.m. on January 28, 2025, and the judge issued her ruling just hours before that deadline, just in time to stop everything. Now here's what you need to understand about this. This is not a ruling on the merits. The judge did not say Trump's order is unconstitutional. She did not say he cannot do this. All she said was, hold on, let us slow down and look at this before it goes into effect. That is important, because a lot of people are acting like Trump just lost some huge legal battle. He did not. Not yet anyway. This is just the first step in what is going to be a long legal fight. But here's the thing that really gets me, the timing. This order was supposed to take effect at 5 p.m. on that day, and the judge issued her ruling literally hours before that deadline. just in time to stop it. Coincidence? Yeah, right. Look, I am not saying the judge did anything illegal. I am not saying there was some conspiracy. But let us be real here. The timing is suspicious. It feels like the system was ready and waiting to block Trump the moment he tried to do something. And that is the pattern we have seen over and over again. It is like clockwork at this point. Trump tries to do something. Lawyers are already lined up with lawsuits. Judges are ready to issue injunctions. The media is ready with their talking points. It is like they have a playbook, like they have been practicing for this moment. And the question you have to ask, is this how it is supposed to work? Is it really the case that a single federal judge can freeze a presidential executive order, an order that was issued by someone who was just elected by the American people? Because if that is how it works, then what is the point of having elections? Seriously, what is the point? You go out, you vote, your candidate wins, they take office, they try to do what they promise, and then some unelected judge in DC says, nah, I do not think so. How is that democracy? Now Trump's team is not backing down, not even a little bit. And honestly, I would not expect them to. Stephen Miller, the deputy chief of staff, he came out swinging. He said this is a clash between Trump's electoral mandate and the bureaucracy that is trying to hold on to power. And he is not wrong about that. And I think that is exactly right. This is not about grants. This is not about money. This is about control. It is about who gets to decide how the government operates. Is it the president or is it the permanent government? The bureaucrats, the judges, the lawyers, the people who were never elected by anyone? That is the real question here. And it is a question that is going to get answered one way or another over the next few months, maybe longer. But it is coming because Trump is not going to let this go. He is going to fight this in court. He is going to appeal. He is going to do whatever it takes to get his agenda through. That is just who he is. And the other side, they are going to fight just as hard. They are going to use every legal trick in the book to slow him down, to stop him, to make it impossible for him to govern. It is going to be ugly. It is going to be messy. And it is going to be one of the defining battles of this presidency. But you know what? That is exactly what Trump signed up for. And that is exactly what the American people voted for. They wanted someone who would fight the system. And that is what they are getting. Are you kidding me? This is exactly the kind of fight that Trump thrives in. And his supporters know it. Okay, so let us break this down into the key points you need to understand, because I know we have covered a lot. And I want to make sure you walk away from this video knowing exactly what is going on and why it matters. So let us do this. Let us break it down. Point number 1. Trump has the legal authority to do what he is trying to do. Now, I know that sounds like a bold claim, especially since a judge just blocked him. But hear me out. This is important. There is something called impoundment power, and presidents have been using it for a long time. Basically, it is the idea that the president can refuse to spend money that Congress has appropriated if he has a good reason. This goes back decades. Presidents from both parties have done versions of this. It is not some new thing that Trump invented. Now, Congress passed something called the Impoundment Control Act back in 1974. This was during the Nixon era. Nixon was using impoundment powers a lot, and Congress did not like it. So they passed this law to limit the president's ability to do this. But here's the thing. There's a real legal debate about whether that law is even constitutional. Some legal scholars argue that the president has inherent authority over the executive branch, and that includes deciding how money gets spent. The Constitution says the president runs the executive branch, and spending money is an executive function. So some people argue that Congress cannot just pass a law that takes away the president's constitutional powers. Trump clearly believes he has this power, and his administration is going to argue that in court, they are going to say the Impoundment Control Act is unconstitutional, or at least that it does not apply in this situation. So this is not some crazy power grab. This is a legitimate legal question that has been debated for decades, and we might finally get a definitive answer. This is going to be one for the history books, and Trump is ready to make that argument all the way to the Supreme Court if he has to. That is how serious this fight is, and that is how confident his team is that they are on the right side of the law. Point number 2. The stakes here are enormous, like really enormous. We are not talking about a few $1 million. We are talking about potentially hundreds of billions of dollars. Some estimates say the federal government gives out over $1 trillion in grants and financial assistance every year, and this affects everything. Disaster relief, humanitarian aid, research grants, community programs, infrastructure projects, education funding, healthcare programs, you name it. If Trump wins this fight, he is going to have the ability to reshape federal spending in ways that no president has done in modern history. He could cut programs that have existed for decades. He could redirect money to his priorities. He could fundamentally change how the government operates. That is huge. That is a massive shift in power, and that is why the opposition is fighting so hard. They know what is at stake. They know that if Trump gets control of the purse strings, the game changes completely. All those programs they have built up over the years, all those grants flowing to their allies, all that money, it could all be redirected or cut. No wonder they are panicking. Point number 3. This is connected to the broader fight over the deep state. Trump has talked a lot about the deep state, the idea that there is a permanent government, unelected bureaucrats who actually run things behind the scenes, people who do not answer to voters, people who cannot be fired, people who have their own agendas. And a lot of people thought that was just talk, just rhetoric, just campaign stuff to get people fired up. But what we are seeing right now, this is exactly what he was talking about. A president gets elected, he tries to implement his agenda, and immediately the system pushes back. Judges issue injunctions, bureaucrats slow walk orders, lawyers file lawsuits. The media runs wall-to-wall coverage about how terrible everything is. It is like there is an immune system built into the government, and it activates whenever someone tries to change things, whenever someone threatens the status quo. That is the deep state, and Trump is going to war with it. He is not just trying to pass some policies. He is trying to fundamentally change the relationship between the president and the permanent bureaucracy. He is trying to establish that the people you elect are actually in charge, and that is why this fight is so important. It is not just about grants. It is about the future of American democracy itself. Point number 4. The public reaction to this is going to be critical. Right now, a lot of people are confused about what is happening. They are hearing scary headlines about funding freezes and chaos, but they do not really understand the full picture. If Trump can make the case that he is fighting waste, that he is standing up to the swamp, that he is trying to save taxpayer money, he could win the public relations battle. He could get the American people on his side. But if the opposition can paint this as Trump hurting vulnerable people, cutting disaster relief, defunding programs that help communities, they could turn public opinion against him. They could make it look like he is being cruel and heartless. So both sides are going to be fighting hard to control the narrative. And that is where the media comes in. That is where social media comes in. That is where people like you and me come in, because we need to make sure the truth gets out there. We need to make sure people understand that Trump is doing exactly what he said he would do. He is trying to reform the government. He is trying to cut waste. He is trying to take back control from the bureaucracy. And the people trying to stop him, they are the ones who benefit from the current system. They are the ones who have been getting rich off federal grants for years. They are the ones who do not want anything to change. Follow the money. It always comes back to 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 the money. Point number 5. This is going to be a long fight. So what happens next? Well, the court is going to hold more hearings. The temporary restraining order is just the beginning. There is going to be arguments, evidence, legal briefs, motions, counter motions, all that lawyer stuff. And eventually this is probably going to go up to the appeals court, maybe even the Supreme Court. It is going to take time. We are talking months, maybe longer. The legal system moves slow, especially when the stakes are this high. But one way or another, we are going to get an answer. And that answer is going to shape the rest of Trump's presidency. It is going to determine whether he can actually implement his agenda or whether he is going to be stuck fighting the system for the next 4 years. Some people are already talking about potential savings of $100 billion or more from federal workforce reforms. That is real money. That is money that could be used for things the American people actually want, or just not spend it all. Either way, it is better than wasting it on programs that do not work. And look, I know some people are going to say Trump is going too far, that he is overstepping his authority, that he is breaking norms. But you know what? Sometimes norms need to be broken. Sometimes the system needs to be shaken up. Sometimes you need someone who is willing to fight. And that is what we have got right now. A president who is willing to take on the permanent government, who is willing to fight for the agenda that the American people voted for, who is not going to back down just because some judge issues an injunction. Is it going to be messy? Yeah, probably. Is it going to be controversial? Absolutely. But is it necessary? I think so. I really do. Because the alternative is just accepting that nothing can ever change, that the bureaucracy will always win, that the swamp will never be drained. And I do not accept that. And I do not think you do either. So keep watching, keep paying attention, because this story is just getting started. Whatever happens with this court case, whatever happens with the appeals, whatever happens at the Supreme Court, I will be right here to break it down for you. This is the fight of our time. This is the battle for the soul of the American government, and we are right in the middle of it. All right, that is it for today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, Let me know what you think about all this. Do you think Trump is right to fight this? Do you think the judge was wrong to block him? I want to hear from you, and I will see you in the next one.